All right, in the last video, I showed you how to get to this point with masking the model's body off. Now we're going to tackle the harder part here, which is the hair. Uh, Hair is one of the harder things you're ever going to have to mask out, and it usually requires quite a bit of retouching. Uh, but you can see I still have the model's body selected here. We can go ahead and deselect that. We saved it so we don't have to worry about finding it again. So I'm going to hit Command D to deselect it. Now let's deal with the hair. We're going to deal with this a different way. We're not going to actually use the tools to select the hair. What we're going to do is use the photo's various channels. All right. So if you're in the Essentials workspace, we have these three panels nested together. Layers we've worked with paths when we turned work paths into selections. Now we're going to work with channels. And before we talk about the channels, I want you to notice down here under the channels, what do you see at the very bottom? There is the mask that we made for her body. So channels is one way that you can use to create masks. So for the model's hair, what you want to do is, this is an RGB red, green, blue image, and you can see this first channel is all three of the channels married together. If you click on any one of the three colors, you're going to see a different look. And what that's telling you is where on the red layer, you can see where there's red pixels and where there's not, or where there's green pixels or where there's blue pixels. When you marry them all together, that's what you get. But what I want you to do is go through the channels on here and look at her hair. And what we're looking for is where you can find the most contrast. And what I mean by that, where the greatest difference between dark and light against the background is. So if you go through here and you go through all of them, they're all pretty much the same, but if it were me, I would probably say the blue has the most contrast. Why do we want the most contrast in here? Because we're going to turn it into a mask. Because if I click on the body here, see how everything that we're showing is white and everything that we're not showing has been masked out in black. We're going to do the same thing. Now, looking through these three, I would say probably the blue channel has the most contrast in it. I'm not worried about the rest of her body. We already have that masked out. But what I'm going to do is use this blue channel to create a mask. So the way this works, you don't want to actually work on the blue channel. If you do that, you're going to screw up all the colors for the image. We want to duplicate this. And the way you do that, I'm going to click on the blue channel. I'm going to drag it down here. There's an icon. It's got a little file with a plus on it. And you can see this turned into the blue copy. But just so I'm really clear on everything, we're going to go ahead and call this the hair layer. So if you double click on that, you can rename it. Now what we're going to do is try and get the most high contrast version of her hair that I can get. So it's dark against a light background. We really want to amplify that right now. I'm not worried about the rest of her body. We have that in the other selection that we made. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use an adjustment layer, and I'll show you how this works. So adjustment layers are up here under the image drop-down menu. Come here to adjustments. Now, these three selections, the top two or three here, are various ways that you can use to really change the contrast here. I'm going to use levels. I find levels for probably the easiest way to do this, and I'll show you how this works. I'm going to go ahead and select levels. Now, what you get with levels is you get what we call a histogram here. And what a histogram does is, if you imagine this is absolute white on one end and this is absolute black on the other, it is showing you the relative distribution of lights and darks in here. So as you go through here, you can see it really spikes up here, and that would be maybe the lighter grays. So I think it's probably picking up the background here. What we can do is we want to use the levels to really create contrast here, because we're going to turn this into a mask. So the way you can do that is by adjusting the white point and the black point. So if I take this white point and slide it in, Now you don't want to go so far that you start blowing out all the detail in her hair. So I'm going to adjust this until it starts getting just a little bit, probably somewhere right in here. And I'm going to do the same thing from the black point here at the other end. I'm going to slowly slide this in. What I'm looking for is I really want to see as much contrast as I can get back here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And remember, we're turning this into a mask, so black and white is the order of the day. So I'm kind of liking where that is right now. So a couple things here. We want to turn this into a mask, which is going to be just black and white. So I want to do two things. I'm going to use one tool first here. I'll show you. And that is over here. It looks like a little lollipop. If you click on it, you can see the little demo on it. This is called the dodge tool, and which will lighten areas. And then there's the burn tool, which will darken areas. The sponge tool, actually, if you use that over a color image, will kind of suck the color out of it slowly. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the dodge tool, and I'm going to use a little bit. And what I want to do is the background's still a little bit too gray. It's not the white I want. So I'm going to take the dodge tool. I'm going to set it at highlights. You can either do the shadows, the midtones. I'm going to do the highlights. And if I click on here, you can see it really kind of blasts that out. Now that may be a little too harsh. Maybe I'll change this exposure down. I'm also going to use a softer edge on this. I don't want a hard edge on my brush. So now what I'm going to do is come around here and just try and lighten this up a little bit throughout her hair. I'm just clicking with the mouse. I want to make sure I don't lose all the little flyaway hairs in here, because that's what's going to make it look realistic. So I'm just kind of coming around the edge, lost a little bit of the hair there. And come down here. Maybe I'll lower this down a little bit. It's still blasting stuff out a little bit too much. And I want to make sure, again, what's really going to give it that sense of believability is going to be seeing some of those individual hairs and everything on there. So I've kind of gone around the edge here. Let's see, did I get down here? We'll get down here. All right, now here's the thing to keep in mind. I'm trying to make this black and white. And as we mentioned in the other masks, everything that's going to show up is going to be white, and everything that's going to be masked out or be invisible is black. So if I want to show her hair, it's actually the opposite of what I need. I actually need the background to be black, and I need her hair to be white. So what you want to do is come up here under the image drop-down menu. We're using that a lot here. And what you can do is come here under adjustments, again, where we found the levels earlier. And you want to come down here to invert. Invert means it's going to flip it. So everything that's white is going to turn black, and everything that's black is going to turn white. Now that we've done that, I'm going to use that same dodge tool here, and I want to make sure we get all this hair detail, that it doesn't fall out. And for this, I can probably go a little stronger. All right, sorry about that. We had a little glitch in the matrix here, which just about scared me because I broke my cardinal rule of not saving my files while I work. So let this be a lesson to you, all right? Always save your work while you're working. I will, in future demos, make sure to do that. But back to where we were, I'm using the dodge tool here, and I'm using it just to get some more of the hair detail here. Remember, we're only working on the hair mask right now. It's probably a little too harsh. Let me take that down. I don't want to blow out too much of the detail in here. And you notice I'm leaving some of the gray areas at the edge. That's what's going to make this look more believable as we go through it. I'm not worried about the rest of her face and everything because we got that with the other mask. So I'm going to come down here. Maybe choose a little bit of a smaller brush going through here. Get some of the detail in here. And again, don't worry about her face or her body. We got that with the other mask in here. So there's some gaps here. Clean that up. And looks pretty good. And remember, you can always go back and retouch this later. The one thing you should do on this while you have it in the state is remember everything that's white is going to be showing. Everything that we don't want to see is going to, you want to make sure you paint black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the background here. So I'm just going to grab a big brush and just make sure I paint this all out with black. I can even paint out her hand. Again, we got that with the other mask. But you just want to make sure we're not picking up anything from the background. Be really careful when you do this. You don't want to ruin the mask that you just made. And once we go around here and paint this all out, you should be good. So now what I have, and you can see over here, there's my hair mask, there's my body mask. What we're going to do now is we're going to marry them together, and I'll do that in the next video.